Hey, it's Tim here. This video, there's not going to be any editing. I'm just simply going to be commentating or doing a commentary to the Tableau keynote. Now, I've watched this keynote now 7 times over. It's ridiculous. So at this point, none of it is new to me. None of it is sort of familiar. And I've had quite a lot of time to formulate some thoughts and opinions. And what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to go through the entire keynote and share things that I couldn't really share in the summaries. It's always important realizing that the summaries and some roundups that I do, they don't often contain much of my actual opinion in there because I'm simply trying to do a service. I'm trying to summarize them so that people who don't have the time to watch the whole thing can get something out of them. And so I have at the end of those videos inserted my opinions and thoughts. In this one, I'll actually go into a lot more detail and a lot more context. It's a long one, I'm sorry, but it's time-stamped, and hopefully you can jump to the bit you care the most about and you can find out what I really think about the whole keynote. And I can also shed some light onto some of the thoughts and discussions I've had since, actually, with various developers inside of Tableau, but also various people in the community as well. So I'm going to try and put all of that value into the next, what will probably end up being an hour and a half, but nonetheless, let's get stuck in. Okay, here we go. So Salesforce always starts these keynotes with this really irritating forward-looking statement. What I hate about this slide is it's a wall of text. And what do they always say about slides? Don't do walls of text. So I always think it's a little bit ironic, all the effort that goes into the keynote and all the effort that goes into planning everything, and the first thing you see is a wall of text. Anyway, I always feel like you could just put like a QR code to say forward-looking statements, go here to read our full notice. We'll assume you've read it from this point on. Something like that. That would be much nicer. Just please get rid of this slide. It's so annoying. And Tableau customers have seen this all the time. It's really irritating. Anyway, let's get stuck in. Should we watch it at 2x speed? Maybe we should. No, we won't do that.
Please welcome Chief Product Officer, Tableau, Francois Edenstadt.
Hello, TC!
Gotta move my mic away.
All right, it is so great to be here together. I mean, look at us. This conference is a celebration of this community, a celebration of the power of data and what we can do together. And I mean, look at this. We have 8,000 people now in Vegas.
Now, what is super interesting is I made a note about this setup, and this is a very Salesforce-centric setup. I kind of think this year they kind of had to do it a little bit as well. But I think what we've got going on here is here on the front, you also can't see really where I'm pointing, but here where my mouse cursor is, I think are potentially keynote speakers with some really important people. They've got the really nice sofas up front. We have Pedro here, we have Larissa, head of community services. You have Ryan Ater here at the top. We have obviously Francois Seat. And then here we have, I think is it Ken or Kevin? I can never remember which one's which. I'm really sorry. One of the Fleur Large twins. And we've also got Anne Jackson. These two made it into the Hall of Fame, Tableau Visionary Hall of Fame, formerly the Tableau Zen Master Program. And then over here on the left, we've got two more people. I can't quite make out who they are. But yeah, this is the new setup. It's always interesting who goes into this circle. I kind of, it always feels like there is some sort of hierarchy in the community based on the number of reservations that, get set up at any conference. I think my first ever conference, I didn't know about this. I ran to the front because I thought I was being keen. I got there and there was just 5 banks of reserved seats. And I was like, oh, so like the closest I can get is like 5 rows back, and then I realized 5 rows back was like the worst seat. The best seats were actually in the crowd on the banks where you could see the whole keynote and get more of the atmosphere. Anyway, I always think that's a little bit strange, but nonetheless, hey, that's just how it is.
Together, and tens of thousands more online. Welcome to the Data Party of the Year.
Got my can of
And
cake, so I'm
this
gonna drink
is an
while we have
amazing
this as
event.
well.
We have 3 days of data goodness. Yeah! Over 200 sessions, hundreds of doctor appointments. We've got the legendary Iron Viz celebration tomorrow. Oh, yeah. And we've got Sophie Tucker for Data Night Out. It's going to be a data party.
This is pretty interesting. I will say this year, I didn't go in person, so I can't speak to the in-person experience. But I have to say, virtually, it was actually quite disappointing. Only 20 of the sessions were on Salesforce Plus, and it was a little bit lackluster because in essence, in between those 20 sessions, there was really nothing to do. When we had the virtual conference because of COVID, it was amazing how much effort Tableau put into a virtual conference. And I appreciate that it's probably hard for Tableau to put effort and budget into both an in-person and a virtual conference simultaneously. And they did do that in the first year that it came back. But it felt like, hey, Tableau was calling on people to come and attend it virtually, come and see it on Salesforce Plus, but actually there was very little on Salesforce Plus during the event. That said, afterwards, I believe all the sessions are going to be made available, so that's a big plus. But I have to say, like, after the in-person conferences kind of took a hit because of COVID, to me, it felt like in-person conferences would never be the same again. To me, it felt like virtual conferences were here to stay, and the virtual audience was in fact the biggest audience of the Tableau conference. If you compare it to experiences, for example, I use DBT as an example. DBT, in my opinion, ran a really successful mixed in-person and virtual conference. Now, of course, DBT is much smaller numbers, but their hybrid setup was really, really good. We had probably 70% of the sessions were available to watch live, and then the videos and the slides, everything was shared almost instantaneously on the platform they were using. We had Slack. It's kind of ironic that Salesforce, owners of Slack, didn't put up a Slack instance for all of these sessions to happen. And it's also alarming that, surely Slack could host a virtual conference, right? Like, why couldn't Slack just host the virtual experience? You own the product, you make the technology. I believe Slack has this sort of meetings capability, and I'm sure you can build some custom integration for big events for customers to do live streaming of events. That is surely a capability you'd love to have in the platform. So yeah, I kind of think there's definitely more Salesforce could do with the virtual experience going forward. To me, I still think it's the biggest audience of conference. Just looking at the number of people who've watched my videos, that audience exists because there was nothing else to watch virtually, and people don't want to wait for anything else. So, me summarizing the videos, me summarizing all the other content, that stuff is still not on YouTube. It's on Salesforce Plus, but frankly, most people in the Tableau community have never heard of Salesforce Plus and won't even sign up because they don't want anything to do with Salesforce. So nonetheless, I still think there's a massive opportunity there to really amp up the virtual experience, really amp up the reach. The keynote, in my opinion, should be live streamed on every platform: LinkedIn, Twitter, Salesforce Plus, and YouTube. The whole point of the keynote is to really broadcast the message of Tableau. And so why it was locked up inside of Salesforce, not really clear. But anyway, let's keep moving
together. And we couldn't do this without our great sponsors who are making this possible. So please give a round of applause for Databricks, Deloitte Digital, Interworks, Starburst, and Kairos. Thank you. Now, you might notice that things look a little bit different this year. We're right here in the middle in this round because we wanted to be together and celebrate together.
Right.
And we're going to talk this week about the latest and greatest innovations in the Tableau platform.
Right.
How we're going to move this platform forward and help you do more with data. Because at the core of Tableau is innovation. This is the 20th year anniversary of Tableau. 20 years.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And
I will say there's something about the audio in this recording that doesn't quite amplify what's actually going on in the audience. So I think there was way more applause, way more around. But I will say this, like the 20 years kind of caught everyone by surprise. It was actually a few months ago. It caught me by surprise. I didn't know until 2 weeks before that it was the 20th years. And maybe that's a little bit about culture. Maybe that's a little bit about some of the other news that was going on at the time. But nonetheless, yeah, for many people in the room, they won't know that Tableau's been around for 20 years, but also more importantly, if that's a surprise, then it's also potentially an opportunity to highlight how far Tableau has come, and so you can kind of see the whole setup. Now, what is really interesting in this chart is they have sort of marked out the Salesforce era here. You can kind of see 2019, 2020, 2021. You've got my AI annotation tool picking up the text here. Those 2019 towards the very end of 2019 is when Salesforce announced they were going to buy Tableau, and I think the deal finished in 2020 and then 2021 and so on and so forth. So you can kind of see the Salesforce logo there in 2018, 2019. That is a super interesting thing for them to highlight. It's maybe potentially a subtle communication that look at this meteoric rise since our Salesforce acquisition. And you know, Tableau was a much smaller company before. I always think of version 10 as the version where Tableau really came alive. I started learning with version 8, and the innovation, there's a really famous data visualization by Jock McKinley where he talks about the different points of innovation in Tableau, and this is kind of a recreation of that. But I think that is the real chart to go to. I'll try and link to it in the description below. That to me is the real sort of viz to go and look at, because there you can really see that the pace of innovation has always been consistent. There's basically been no gaps. There's always been some sort of innovation pretty much every year, and it's been really exciting to see. What it does call out, though, is the innovations that Tableau call out since the Salesforce acquisition. So let's have a look. Ask Data, Prep Conductor, Tableau Catalog. Then there's like a whole year of no innovation, but of course these are just versions and releases, so they get sort of marked out. Then you've got data stories, accelerators, data mapping. And so it's actually, you know, I think many people in the Tableau community will easily look at those and say, yeah, those are very Salesforce centric like things. If you look at the Salesforce platform, you see similarities and synergies with the way Salesforce thinks about products, with the way that these innovations have started to happen. Whereas if you look before the Salesforce innovation, what's considered innovation to me is real innovation. So Hyper, Tableau Prep, LODs, Tableau calculations, blending, data engine, mapping, all of these things are sort of the core of what we know as part of the experience today. And in many ways, the community has been submitting ideas way back since 2012 on some of these even basic innovations, some of which were announced at this keynote, some of which are yet to come. But those are the innovations, you know, they're not really innovations because they've been ideas for a while, but frankly, those are the ideas that people want to see. So let's yeah, let's keep going.
Innovation has been at the core of Tableau since the beginning, and we're continuing to advance our mission to help people see and understand data. And last year, we delivered over 120 new capabilities to the Tableau platform.
That's fair.
New capabilities for analysts, consumers, IT, and developers. New capabilities like data stories and HIPAA certification. Over 50 new accelerators.
Just listen to that back. Those roles, analysts, consumers, developers, and IT. Just keep those four in your head. We'll come back to that point later, okay?
And community favorites like image roles and dynamic zone visibility. And there's so much more coming today. Now, in August 2019, we joined forces with Salesforce. And this is the Customer 360. Yeah, that's right. You can applause for Salesforce. Now, the Customer 360 is our portfolio of...
That is a great little moment. Someone said "woo" in the crowd. Okay, that's probably the one Salesforce admin who absolutely loves the fact that Tableau is now part of the Salesforce family, and he can use it to help solve problems. He or she was probably using it already. Nonetheless, that was a very interesting sort of transition. And you know, this is a tough crowd as well. Like just going back there, it made me think that a lot of people came into this conference with a little bit of tension. There's been a lot of sort of, let's say, upheaval in the last 6 months, whether it's to do with the Salesforce layoffs, whether it's to do with, you know, a lack of features, whether it's to do with this sort of what appears to be a rising tide of, you know, Power BI versus Tableau again, and Power BI kind of winning the battles at C-suite. There is a lot of that tension sort of all bundled up into this room, and you can kind of feel it, and you can tell that, you know, as Francois presenting, he can feel it. You can tell just as he's looking out to people and they're just looking back at him cold. maybe it's the camera angles. I'm not in the room, so I can't tell. But yeah, it's a tough crowd, definitely.
Products and services that helps customers or companies connect with their customers. And at the heart of the Customer 360, well, it's data and AI. And what do you need when you have data? You need Tableau. And so Tableau is unlocking the value of the Customer 360 and helping every company get better insights into their customer data.
Right.
Now, one of the reasons that Salesforce and Tableau is such a great match together is that we share our values. We believe that business is the greatest platform for change.
Right.
We follow what's called the 1-1-1 model, where we provide 1% of our equity, 1% of our time, and 1% of our product to help do good in the world. And you're going to see that in our keynotes around data for good or Viz for social change. But data is a force for good, and we're doing that together. And as a result, we can do well while doing good. You know, we're a leader in philanthropy. We're a leader in innovation. We're a leader in culture. And as a result, it's fueling our momentum because we're putting our community and our customers at the center of everything we do.
What is this?
And that's fueling our momentum. That's fueling our success.
Let's just go back here. This is going to be really tricky. Can I go back here and see this clarification? High end of FY24. I think these are Salesforce figures. No, I think these are Salesforce figures. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
It's fueling our momentum because we're putting our community and our customers at the center of everything we do. And that's fueling our momentum. That's fueling our success. At the end of Q4, we actually achieved $2.5 billion in revenue run rate for Tableau. Is that amazing?
Right, okay. So this is another really key point. In the last 3 years, the keynote and the developer/authoring message, or whatever analysts like to see, have all been crammed into this hour and a half. And what that means is that previously you could come to the keynote and kind of switch off in this session because this was not the place as a user or analyst of Tableau to pay attention. The time to pay attention was devs on stage. Those two messages were nicely decoupled. Because we're in now one keynote, what we're getting more of is what seems to be like an investor message. This is a message to the market because, of course, this is live. There are press releases coming out of this. Tableau have to say these things for the market to understand how it's performing, how to assess Tableau as a leader or player in the market. It also allows Tableau to give analysts and journalists ammunition to go and ask the same question of other analytical platforms. If you're doing so well, what is your revenue run rate? What is your customer count? What is your year-on-year growth, right? How many activities in data management? All of these things, they're kind of giving you these 5 talking points. And the really interesting thing about these 5 talking points is they all show growth. They all show growth in a really interesting way. Yet there's a general sentiment in the communities, general sentiment in the industry, let's say, that Power BI is sort of gaining ground. And so it's difficult to know where the truth really lies. Of course, the only people who really know the answer is in each and every organization. As people make those decisions, they know the answer to that question. They know which product does best. They know how much they spend with Tableau, and they know whether they're getting value or not. But here we have to take it at face value, and we have to take it and assume that Tableau is, really doing as well as it says it is. And these, you can't lie about these facts. These are these are things that you are held to account for in your accounting when you report financially. When Salesforce does its annual accounts, these will be the same figures that you'll hopefully see as well. So really interesting to see this here, but I think it's worth highlighting that this is a message for investors, the markets, and the analysts who write about this industry. And so it has to come here because this is what they're listening for.
And we're continuing to add more customers to the Tableau family, over 100,000. And we're continuing to add more customers to the Tableau family, over 100,000 customers around the world, from small businesses to nonprofits, public sector organizations to the largest enterprises in the world. And our products continue to be adopted at scale, and we're continuing to see customers moving to the cloud at a faster clip. The cloud is not just another deployment platform for Tableau. It's actually become the preferred option for Tableau. We're seeing new customers start in the cloud. We're seeing existing server customers transition to the cloud. And you know why? Because they're seeing better performance. They're seeing better scalability. They're able to spend more time doing analytics instead of fussing with infrastructure. And so the activities on Tableau Cloud is just skyrocketing. And it's the best place to experience the innovations that you're going to see today. Now,
So I always think when Tableau says something like this, what they're really saying is we're heading this way. This is becoming the core product. This will be where our focus is. And I always hope and pray that there are people in the room reading the tea leaves, because I've been saying this for a while now, that it's really obvious that Tableau wants to move to the cloud. This was, I think, the reason they went and got Adam Selipsky, who helped build up AWS services, and just essentially turned the company into a cloud-first company. And now that he's gone back to Amazon to take over Andy Jesse's role, so Andy Jesse can step into Jeff Bezos' role. The company's still on this trajectory, and of course it would be, because Salesforce is a SaaS company, and one of the core tenets of SaaS is the cloud. So unless Tableau, suddenly decides to rewind time, like, the cloud is the direction, and I think customers are understanding that. That's not to say that Tableau should be excused for not having feature sort of comparability between server and cloud, because there's still some areas where that's not the case. But I think that means that, yeah, customers can sort of, put the fire under Tableau a little bit and say, hey, I want to do these things, but I still can't do them. But nonetheless, those hurdles are coming down thick and fast. Literally every release, there's features that are cloud-centric. And yeah, I think the writing's on the wall here. Like, this is the direction that the company's moving in. And if you're a Tableau server customer and you have a use case that's exclusively Tableau, of course Tableau will continue to serve you. But it's pretty clear here, they're saying that will be the secondary experience. There'll be features that come first to the cloud and then later on a Tableau server. And that's actually been the case for a lot of releases now. Tableau server is only released every 6 months. That catches people out still. Tableau Cloud gets releases quarterly. That in itself shows you there's a preference to Tableau Cloud getting features faster, if that's the only preference that was exist. But it's not. There's other preferences as well. And so it's definitely happening. And yeah, you just have to sort of get on board with the program. And if not, then obviously there's other competitors in the market that use other products. And so does Power BI have the same sort of cloud offering? You could argue that Microsoft does, but it's not set up in the same way, and potentially that's where there's some differentiation to be had. We'll come back to sort of server features and whether this is all making sense, but nonetheless, let's keep going.
The other thing we've done is we've actually brought in a new leader for Tableau to help steer our ship forward. And so I'm pleased to welcome to Tableau Conference Ryan Ate, the new CEO of Tableau.
All right, very good. Great to be here.
Welcome
Amazing.
to Tableau Conference.
Thank you. And by the way, I have to say, it is a fantastic place to be in the center with you and with our community and with our customers and our partners and all of our employees. And I just want to say thank you for all of your support.
It's amazing. Now, Ryan, you spend a lot of time with customers. What are you hearing from customers? What are they telling you? What should we do?
They're telling us a lot, and we're listening. And I think the big thing that customers are speaking to right now, you talked about it, is cloud, right? And the reason they want to be focused on cloud and migrating to cloud is this opportunity to go faster, this opportunity to have better performance, the opportunity to also make sure that you're getting cost efficiencies in your business. And of course, the opportunity to take advantage of some of the great things you're going to talk about today, which I won't reveal right now, but you can reveal later.
All right, is there one thing you're very excited about for the future ahead?
I would say I'm excited about a lot of things. And one other thing I want to talk about really quickly is one other thing I heard.
One?
Sorry, one thing.
Okay.
One thing is, when we talk about other things we hear from customers, they also talk about support and the need to help our customers across the board. And so one thing
I'm sorry, that was like a really labored one thing. I hear one thing, one little thing. It's about customer support. Tableau does not hear about customer support. Tableau is being bombarded about customer support nonetheless. It's definitely something where something has gone wrong with the experience, and it's definitely not how it was designed to be, and it's definitely broken in certain parts. And I don't know if that's because of just the lack of manpower. Maybe it's actually that growth we're seeing. Maybe the fact that the growth has happened so quickly, accelerated, and yet maybe the support structure hasn't changed to sort of meet that growth. Maybe that's potentially what it is. But it's definitely obvious if you've been experiencing Tableau support over the last, let's say, decade, you can definitely plot a trend. And in the last couple of years, it's something's not right. And Ryan here is essentially acknowledging it on stage. It's definitely what customers are talking about. Let's hear what he has to say.
we're going to go through today is the Tableau Success Plan. We're going to be launching that for all of our customers later this year. And I just think it's something I want to actually call out to make sure you're all aware of it. We are listening to you. Okay, good. All right. The other thing, you asked me about the future. I would say the future is amazing in the sense that we have so much to look forward to with generative AI. In that way, we're trying to do things in a safe and secure way. You may have noticed last week we announced Slack GPT. Previous to that, we announced Einstein GPT a few months ago. There's some really great things coming this week, and I'm excited about that. You're going to hear about it. If I then go...
Hint, hint, Slack GPT, Einstein GPT, drum roll please, Tableau GPT. I don't know. I really enjoyed sort of listening to this during the keynote. Like, it was pretty obvious what he was saying. But yeah, every company under the sun is going to do something GPT. Chat GPT is kind of shown people that this is a really powerful technology that everyone should be paying attention to, and done right with the right sort of guidance rails and the right sort of deployment, it can actually save a lot of time in certain use cases, and those use cases need to be explored. So yeah.
And I think about where's the future, Horizon 2, and where we're going beyond this. It's about Data Cloud, because Data Cloud's a great opportunity, and it's powered by Tableau, which is fantastic. We love data.
This to me is like incredible. Salesforce Data Cloud is powered by Tableau. Just listen to that for 1 second. Salesforce Data Cloud is powered by Tableau. This is, to me, the biggest signal of why Salesforce purchased Tableau. We might think it's because Salesforce needed an analytical product. Yes, of course it did. Einstein Analytics was nowhere near as capable as something as the Tableau platform. But more importantly, Salesforce Data Cloud is now powered by Tableau. Later on in the conference, this is termed as Hyper. Salesforce Data Cloud is being powered by the innovation around Hyper and some of the capabilities around that. And so it kind of shows to you that Salesforce didn't just acquire Tableau for the sake of it. There is an IP, there's innovation inside of Tableau that was pretty unique to Tableau that made it a valuable prospect to go and solve a potentially huge problem inside of Salesforce. And it's clear that those investments are now starting to pay through for Salesforce. Many Salesforce users may never notice that something changed, other than maybe potentially things getting faster and more features coming out. But for Tableau users, it's really important to call this out, that now Salesforce is powered by Tableau. That's the heart of the sort of setup.
And the last thing I'll say really quickly is that our community, right? All of the people here in this room, all of our customers, all of our partners, we need you. And we will continue to invest in you, and we will continue to bring it to life. And I think that's really important to talk about. I want to accelerate that in our new environment together, in partnership with you and others in the business, to make sure that we're bringing you forward, right? And that relates to the future as well, with data skills and literacy, and that is the future of Tableau.
Love it. Well, welcome to Tableau Conference, and welcome to the Tableau team.
Very good. Good.
Now, a really important aspect of the economy of the future, and for all of us, is data skills. We know that investing in data literacy is critical to the success of our companies and to the future success in our jobs. That's why at the end of 2021, we launched a pledge to train over 10 million people on data skills over the next 5 years. 10 million people. This is so critical. And I'm pleased to say that we've already exceeded our year one goals. We've already trained 1.9 million people in the first year and a half alone. That's amazing.
I was wondering, what is that number? What is 1.9 million people? Like, trained who? Like, students? Users? How is that number comprised? And to be honest, when they said 10 million data learners by 2027 in like the previous conference, I was kind of intrigued by how they measured that, because I thought it was actually quite an ambitious plan. But nonetheless, it's happening. So I'd be really curious to see how that number is broken down. Like, what are the groups? What are the different areas?
And a big part of that is because of all of you, because of this community. And our community is stronger than ever. We now have more than 3 million people on Tableau Public, over 7 million visualizations on Public. It's amazing. The work that you guys do is inspiring. We have over 350,000 people on the forums helping each other, making each other more successful, supporting each other to be great. And we have incredible user groups all over the world.
Right. The metric that really matters when you look at these numbers is, in fact, active users, active profiles, active visualizations. You know, how many of these visualizations are published within the last year, and how many of them, are getting visited, right? Like that to me is the kind of really important metric. 350,000 Tableau forum users. Okay, how many of them are active? And by active, I mean logged in the last month or in the last year. Come up with some sort of measure and tell us about sort of how you define that, because the aggregate is one thing, but there'll also be many millions of users here that overlap many other analytical tools, and so that is less unique than potentially quoting these sort of high level numbers.
Oh yeah, 70 countries. The community is thriving like never before. And so to tell you more about the Tableau community, I'm pleased to bring up Larissa Amoroso, Vice President of the Tableau community.
Thank you, Francois, and hello, Data Fam. I am so thrilled to be here with all of you today in Vegas at Tableau Conference. Now, every single person in this room and all of you tuning in online have a unique connection to the Tableau community. I've heard from many of you that Tableau and this community have had a profound impact on you. Now, beyond your personal lives, many of you have changed the course of your organizations and the world for the better. Big change like this takes exceptional leadership. And that's why I'd like to take a moment to give a few shout-outs. Thank you to the more than 100 user group leaders right here in this room, and hundreds more tuning in from around the world. Woo! Yeah. Thank you for creating a space to connect, to learn, and just to talk all things data. Thank you to our ambassadors who champion Tableau and our mission.
Indeed.
They inspire creativity. They foster and nurture technical growth in our community. So ambassadors and user group leaders, everything that you do brings Tableau to life. Now, there is one more group of people that I like to recognize.
I was going to pause it here and say it's the people who play these roles, user group leaders and ambassadors. It's very much a thankless task. They do so much work behind the scenes, whether it's coming up with new ways of using the product, organizing opportunities for people to get together. User group leaders in particular, they act as the catalyst for companies, groups, specific communities, sectors, industries to share knowledge in a safe and collaborative way. That is always sort of an understated thing. When you go to a user group and someone gets up and shows you how they're doing something in their organization with a bit of anonymized data, that in most industries is completely unheard of, because that's sort of considered competitive advantage. And this happens every single week. You only got to go to YouTube and see all the user group recordings that are being put out. And if you if all you did is watch those user group recordings for 1 year, I promise you, you'd learn so much more about Tableau than any course, any YouTube channel at all. So go ahead and really engage with those as much as possible. And then ambassadors sometimes do straddle the user group. So the user group leaders are sometimes ambassadors, but nonetheless, ambassadors also tend to make a lot of great content, a lot of really unique content. So they also deserve a big shout out. It's a huge group of people. You can see this is a photo of just the people at conference. There'll be many more who couldn't make it in the whole setup. So let's keep going.
These are the people who raise the bar for what's possible with Tableau. We call these leaders Tableau visionaries. Nominated by the Data Fam at large, this year we are honoring 50 visionaries,
Yay.
Our largest and most globally diverse group to date. And I'd like to take a special moment to honor our two newest inductees into the Visionary Hall of Fame, Ann Jackson and Ken Flerledge.
It was Ken. Apologies, Ken. I'm so sorry for getting it wrong.
Now, Ann and Ken joined 14 others who have served as visionaries for 5 full years. They will hold the title of Tableau Visionary in perpetuity. So congrats to Ken and Ann. Now, all visionaries, please come join me up on stage. Okay. Okay, get in here. Don't be shy. Now, visionaries, you inspire us, you teach us, and you push us to do more. You empower us to deliver on our mission to help people see and understand data. And for that, I just want to say a huge thank you. So thank you, visionaries, and thank you, Data Fam. Now, where's Francois and Ryan and Pedro? Get up here. We're going to take a quick selfie.
Okay, so gosh, if I was at a conference, I think I'd be faced with the dilemma of taking part in this myself. On one hand, let me put myself in my own shoes as a Tableau visionary. On one hand, I do what I do because I enjoy it. I think it helps a lot of people. I hope it helps a lot of people. And if it does, I don't expect anything back for it. That's sort of always been the mantra. If you do go into these things expecting something back, what tends to happen is you burn out, quite frankly, because you're kind of looking for the recognition in a different context, and it doesn't work, right? There's just something about it. I can't really explain it well. That to me is just a really important factor. And so just stepping back and just saying, okay, Tableau visionaries, they all do sensational things. Don't get me wrong. I envy every single one of these people for a skill that I don't have, because they're all able to do something that is incredible. And I think everyone in this group who's been a visionary before, is a visionary this year, absolutely deserves it. But there's one small but. I think this moment on stage is a little bit awkward. And if you're not part of the community and you're not part of the 1% who actually gets what's going on here, this just looks a little bit strange. And I think at this point, when they got up and, everything happened, fine. But then it's the selfie. And I know it's great to be part of the selfie, but I don't know, if you were in the crowd or if you're in the audience, let me know. How was this part of conference? Did it feel strange? Did it feel weird? I don't know. But to me, I just think, I've never been at a client, and I've never gone anywhere in like a general setting with everyday people that use Tableau, where they even know that there's a visionary or an ambassador or any sort of recognition program. They just use Tableau. When someone goes and watches a video explaining what Tableau is, I guarantee you there'll only be like hundreds of people potentially who even know that there's a recognition program in the Tableau ecosystem. But there are hundreds of thousands of people who just want to use Tableau and just get on with it. Quite a few of those people come to this conference for the first time. And I think this moment on stage, I think it's just a little bit awkward. I don't want to be the person to say that it shouldn't be done or whatever. Like that is an absolutely, Tableau's own decision, and it's absolutely sort of up to them how they orchestrate this. But I just do think that I would really struggle to be part of something like this, and so I don't know. I'd probably have to sit it out because it's just a little bit weird.
All right. You guys ready? Ryan, Pedro, come on in. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3, data! Amazing. Congratulations.
Pretty cool photo.
Off to you. Okay, thank you.
All right. This community is just so inspiring. It's amazing. I mean, look at what they do and look at how incredible they are. Together, we are doing amazing things. And today, we're using data in completely new ways. I mean, think about it. 20 years ago, data were boring tabular reports.
Yeah.
And together, we've made it visual, fun, and interactive. Today, data is everywhere. It's gone mainstream. We saw it through the pandemic, where we were looking at data every day to see where the cases are. But data is also powering new experiences. Think of Netflix. The recommendation feed is powered by data and AI. And data is changing sports. Just look at baseball. Baseball is now completely data-driven. I mean, data has completely changed the game. And with new technologies like the cloud and generative AI, we're going to change the game again together. But we all know that data is still too hard. It's not accessible to everybody. There's still too many people that don't have access to the data.
So at this point, we've come straight off the community event and we've gone into what I called glue in my keynote summary. Somehow we need to, Francois is building a moat. He's building a bridge from all this community fanfare, celebration of the past, celebration of the people, everything. He needs to build a bridge, ironically, over the chasm to the core content of the keynote. So this slide is both like a perfect illustration of what he's explaining, but also, ironically, explaining the situation in the keynote that he's in. And so what he's trying to do is say, hey, look, these are amazing things that we can do with data. Here are some, opportunities for the future, but here's a core problem in the business. And the problem is that data is not accessible to all. People have limited skill, missing context, hard to trust. Only 30% say actions are driven by data. Now, what I find super interesting about this particular slide, in fact, let me say this after this slide is finished.
To make better decisions. In fact, only 30% of people in organizations use data to make decisions. So what do the other people do? They just make it up or make decisions based on gut feel? Well, we have to help everyone. And part of the challenge is a lack of skills. They lack context to make the right decisions.
So to me, I'm stopping right here because this is the moment. And this is going to come up in the theme that I think is been shared by lots of people at conference, which is I didn't see anything that helps me as a user of the Tableau desktop authoring experience. But I think Tableau is calling it out right here. You are that 30%. And this slide is kind of saying, hey, data is not accessible to all. Data's over here, and only 30% of you, and little circles of the people in the community, yeah, you people, you're doing it well, you're happy, you're successful, but everyone else can't cross this gap because they have limited skills. They're not data analysts, they're not data engineers, they're not dashboard authors, and they all can't be, for the record. You can't possibly train up everyone in an organization to use Tableau desktop to get to an answer. That's just really not realistic. And even if you did do that, you'd have too many people using tools they don't understand, and therefore it becomes hard to trust. So in a way, I kind of feel like this is like Tableau literally saying it here, and they've been saying it for a while. Everything we're about to tell you is not for this 30%. Everything we're about to tell you is for the 70% that come after, right? Like this is for everyone else. And so when the keynote then starts to become about Tableau, past all these other great technologies and everything coming up, I'm not surprised by all of that because Tableau are calling it out here, and I feel like they've been calling it out keynote after keynote, session after session, feature after feature, release after release. And we'll get onto that a little bit more, but I think it's here in black and white. They're literally saying it right here. They want to help everyone else, not just this 30%, which is where they've sort of mostly focused their effort in the past.
They're lacking trust in the data. Well, Tableau is about empowering everyone. And this is why our mission to help people see and understand data is...
I feel like Francois would just underline people, not like you ninjas in the room here, not people who are mostly attending this conference, literally everyday people who will never open a calculation window, people who will never open desktop, people who will never open prep, people who will never administer server. Those people, that's who I think they're really trying to emphasize. Without saying it, they're really trying to emphasize that. And actually they do spell it out a little bit more throughout the keynote.
More relevant today than it's ever been, because our mission is about empowering all people to get insights and generate meaning from data. It's about getting the best out of everyone so that we can have impact on the world together. But we still have more work to do. We still have to push forward to help everyone with data.
You're saying it again. I can't stress it enough. You said everyone, more people, everyone, not just the people who have access. I feel like he's just saying it again and again. He's trying to really drum the point home. If I'm wrong about this, let me know, Francois. But I feel like that's what you're saying.
And this is why today is a new day for data.
And there you go. And like, we want to help everyone. We want to help everyone. And this is why today, this keynote is a new day for data. Today, we focus on the 70% of people we've not helped in the past. And so, yeah, if you walk away from this keynote thinking, hey, I didn't see anything for me as an author, well, this is why. This is their focus. And that's not to say it's the right focus. That's not to say that everyone at conference should be happy and celebrating and, you know, ringing off cheer bells and everything. Absolutely not. If you're an author who's invested years in Tableau and you're sitting here in the audience and Tableau is saying to you, hey, you're not our key focus for the next few years, that is a tough sort of message to take, and that is a tough thing to sort of hear. But if I'm paraphrasing this correctly, that is what's being said here. And I don't think it could be more clear if anyone in this keynote tried to sort of understand it that way.
Today is a new day for Tableau. And together, we're going to build an amazing future together. Now, it's a new day for consumers. We're going to deliver new...
Like the first thing, a new day for who? Consumers. That's the first thing. Never has that happened in a Tableau keynote. Like in the past, if this was a new day for data, it would have been for analysts, for dashboard builders, for creatives. Those have been sort of the headlines of the past. It'll take me way too long to go back in the keynotes and find out what sort of the core overlying message. But if I think back to the Christian Chabot days when we were talking about data storytelling and visualization, the focus there was in enabling people like me, people like you probably watching this video, on how to build beautiful things and get those things into the business, right? But here it's saying a new day for data. Consumers don't build anything. They just consume. They're viewers. They are explorers potentially. They just consume.
Experiences that helps everyone close that insight to action loop and bring data in the flow of everybody. It's a new day for developers. We're going to name...
Okay, group number 2. It's a new day for people who want to build on top of Tableau. People who want to extend Tableau to places we're not interested in going, but we'll give you the tools to go and do that.
Enable every developer to bring the power of data and analytics to every single application. It's a new day for IT, to help IT build trusted data at scale so that we have a single source of truth. And it's a new day for analysts as well.
IT, people who manage these infrastructures, but also notice he talked about metadata. He didn't talk about, setting up servers. At the beginning, he called out that IT are doing less of that because of Tableau Cloud. So when he talks about IT, he's really talking about unearthing the metadata, making sure things interconnect and work better together, making sure they can do governance and apply their policies and everything in a nice, simple, and clear way. And then when we go to analysts, I think this is the most interesting thing, because I think this term analyst is confused throughout the industry. Everyone uses the term analyst too much, because what is an analyst? Analyst could be someone who works inside of a hedge fund analyzing a specific market. Analyst could be someone who works inside of an organization sifting through data day to day. But that doesn't describe what an analyst does. An analyst is a role. And so when Tableau calls analysts, I think it's really important to realize they're not talking about authors. They're fundamentally talking about people whose job it is to take data, process it in some way, whether it's mental, through analysis, or through some sort of reading, some sort of consumption process, and then relay it back out to the business in some way or form so they can make a decision, right? That's what fundamentally analysts do. He didn't say data analysts, didn't say any of that, just analysts, full stop. And so it's an incredibly broad term. I think it gives Tableau a get out of jail free card to say, hey, we're talking about you, everyone in the room. But actually, I just don't think that is fully the case. When we get to devs on stage, yes, you could say, yes, there's some stuff for the analysts there. But fundamentally, the stuff they lead with is more consumption, more analyst sort of focused than it is an analyst who's going to go and build stuff and do stuff. But anyway, it's not clear sort of what that word means, and I think it's often taken for granted. Anyway, let's keep going.
We have to continue to make Tableau easier and more powerful so you can answer richer questions. We have to remove the burrs and keep you in the flow. And you're going to see us double down on our core community this year. It's going to be awesome. So, it's a new day for data.
So at the end of the day, he said he's going to double down on the core community. Fine, that makes total sense. Again, what does that actually mean? We'll get back to that later. So here we are. Here are the new tenants.
And this keynote will show you the latest and greatest.
New day for data. Data augmented by AI, data embedded everywhere, and data trusted by all. Those are the three key tenants. It's all about data. It's not about storytelling as it's been in the past. It's not about analytics. Sort of the term analytics in Tableau has always meant dashboarding, calculations, all of that stuff, the analytical pipeline. This is all around how do we coalesce around this term data, and how do we make all these sort of core activities happen.
Innovations coming to the Tableau platform. First, we're going to talk about how we're going to augment data with AI so that we can bring the power of data to everyone. We're going to talk about how every application is going to become an analytical application. And we're going to talk about how we can share data at scale in a trusted and scalable way. And of course, we're also going to have devs on stage.
And there's the core community. So can I just say, I think that was like, that to me, just tie that in a bow and present it. You've got these items on stage, a new day for data, augmented by AI, embedded everywhere, trusted by all, silence. And then, as an aside, we've got devs on stage too. Then the immediate crowd goes wild. To me, that just says it all. Like, this stuff here, it's not for the core community. The majority of this keynote is about to be not for the community. For you, we've got devs on stage right at the end. And I think that, again, just to drum my message home, that this is how it is.
Oh, yeah. And let me just say there's a few mic drop moments in devs on stage. Or should I say pineapple drop? All right, so let's get it started. Let's talk about how we're augmenting the data experience with.
So that pineapple reference, you'll get it when we get to the Chirinomia demo at the end, because Matt brings out the pineapple, hint, hint. This is the bit to pay attention to. Anyway, let's carry on.
AI, and for that, I'd like to welcome Pedro Ariano, the new Senior Vice President of Product. Welcome to the stage, Pedro.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I can't tell you how special it is for me to be here. I want to give a special personal shout out to the Latino community, Comunidades. Thank you for this shirt. It's so special for me to be at Tableau Conference as part of Tableau. Because I remember my first Tableau Conference years ago, I was a spectator. I was sitting in the audience just like all of you, and I was surrounded by so many of you, thousands and thousands of very passionate, very excited, very loud people. And I remember you all losing your minds because somebody on stage showed like this little tiny new option on a menu bar. I was like, what is this? It's like, I've never seen this before.
And that's exactly what people are thinking when everyone's on stage, whatever. There's a whole bunch of first experiences that people don't get. And I don't know.
But it was just so special and so exciting. And it made me think about how truly innovative and disruptive Tableau has been over the years. Tableau empowered millions of people like you from all kinds of backgrounds, different types of expertise, to work with data in a way that just wasn't possible before. It ushered in a new era of analytics. It allowed you to express yourselves creatively through data. It actually made data fun. Think about that. We came from financial statements to somebody building a viz that shows the history of Fleetwood Mac. That's a real viz, by the way. If you're out there, shout out to you. That viz exists. Well, now we are entering a new era of disruption. And that is the emergence of generative AI. Generative AI has the potential to become the biggest, most transformative technology that we see in our lifetimes. And it's just so early. We're only beginning to understand the potential that it has, but we're already seeing glimpses of how it can alter everything around us. And that is exciting. It's also a little bit scary. However you feel about it, there is no question that generative AI is an incredible technology achievement. So,
I think Pedro is basically acknowledging the anxiety around AI, how quickly it's moving, and how I think businesses feel like, well, they want to get in on this, but they also want to do it well, and they want to do it safely, and they also don't want to break any laws. The laws around this are pretty immature, if let's say the least. Regulation is always quite late to react to this kind of stuff. So it's interesting that Pedro is sort of just acknowledging that, teeing people up to say, hey, all these things, you're thinking it, we're thinking it too. But we've taken all of that into account. That's sort of the implication. And we're going to show you how we think we can do this well in the context of a business.
What does it mean for all of us? What does it mean for Tableau and its community? Well, all of you know that Tableau has been investing in artificial intelligence and augmented analytics for a number of years. You're familiar with capabilities like Ask Data, Explain Data, Data Stories. What generative AI does for us is it allows us to take these investments to the next level. And that is why today we are unveiling to the world Tableau GPT.
So this is the
Tableau GPT is a new.
This is the moment Ryan Ate called out. He said, "We've done Slack, we've done Einstein. Here is Tableau GPT," and you can even see Einstein's on stage here.
New suite of capabilities that allow us to infuse the power of generative AI across all experiences in Tableau. Experiences like analytics that feels more like conversational Q&A and less drag and drop. Experiences like anticipating the questions that a user might ask because of having an understanding of the data. Or an experience like taking dozens or hundreds of insights and explaining them using very easy to understand summaries. Tableau GPT is a game-changing innovation, and we're going to disrupt the industry once again. This is going to help us fulfill our mission of helping everyone see and understand data.
So it's a pretty bold statement there, because what Pedro is saying is he's kind of calling out the success before it's happened, right? And I think as a leader, you do that because you're confident about what it's going to enable you to do. And you're also confident about the skills you have inside of the organization to deliver on that. And everything you just said there was a vision. It's not something that's, come to reality. And actually, we do see some demos, but I'll get into the demos a little bit later on. Um, everything he said there is teeing up for the kind of expectations, essentially setting expectations actually for the features you should expect to see. Nonetheless, I think those kind of messages, people don't remember that because what you remember is exactly what they show you after. So he's saying it here, we'll see it in the demos, but you'll remember the demos. And I think you'll walk away from the demos thinking, yes, this is what it's like. But in reality, none of this stuff has fully been fleshed out. It's still in development, still being worked through. And we'll see a bit more of the details soon.
So how does it work? So Tableau GPT brings together the power of Salesforce's own proprietary AI models, our large language models from our ecosystem of partners, and the power of Tableau analytics. Surrounding all of this is a very important layer of security and governance, because we understand that as we invest more and more in generative AI, our responsibility as trusted stewards of your data becomes even more and more important. So now, I'm going to introduce one of the first places where we're going to leverage the power of Tableau GPT, our new groundbreaking innovation, introducing Tableau Pulse.
Okay, so I'm going to stop this here. I've done a video on Tableau Pulse. Go watch it. It's probably going to be much shorter than the blurb I'm about to go through here. And for that reason, I'll probably skip through various bits here. We'll see the demo anyway. I'll have to skip the customer parts because there's a small issue with me, doing videos about customers and putting it on YouTube. We'll the story for another day. Anyway, that whole teeing up just there, what he just did here, I think where he was talking about the innovation, this is a bit of a nothing diagram. It's like I call these like a nothing slide, a slide with something on it, but you haven't really got anything to show, and so you make something, and it's just two things with a spinning arrow going to each other, and you put them in some boxes, and you say concept, and you go, "Dana, this is how it's going to work." But all it really means is the language models working in partnership with the analytics stuff. So the stuff the analytics, great. We're adding language models right next to that, and we're going to help those things understand. And by the way, these things run in a container. The container is security and governance, and data sources are also part of that vision. And so, I think that Pedro felt he had to sort of tee that up to say this is how it's going to work, and don't worry, we're doing this, we're thinking about this. A repetition again from the very beginning, but nonetheless, here's where we are.
We're going to leverage the power of Tableau GPT, our new groundbreaking innovation, introducing Tableau Pulse.
So the pilot is in half to 2023, so basically just after summer. So think of this as going to be released in either the 23.3 or 23.4 as a pilot. And here's the thing, as a pilot. So surface personalized metrics, integrate data into workflows, get AI-powered insights at scale. Now, when we go through this feature set, and in my video, I called out straight away, I bet you this is going to be a Tableau cloud only feature. I don't have confirmation of that. I don't know the answer to that. But my hunch is that this will be a Tableau cloud only feature straight out of the gate. Why? Well, number one, server only gets 2 updates a year. So if there's a pilot in the second half of the year, it's definitely not going to be in server. So the pilot will be in Tableau cloud as a starting point. Again, extrapolate that a bit further. Tableau Cloud will be the place where Tableau can do what it thinks it needs to do to power this, i.e. not have you worrying about large language models and data and everything running, because you're in charge of that infrastructure. You can do that in a way that's secure and trusted and governed. And as Tableau Cloud does, it has all the compliance and capability setups already. So that is a much better place for this stuff to be done, as Tableau would say. So that's an important thing. Now, if Tableau said, actually, we're going to do it on server as well, well, there's just a whole bunch of other questions that suddenly need to be answered. For example, if this stuff is really running AI models and everything, AI models have completely different compute requirements to everyday servers and systems. Just even a simple activity of training up an AI model takes ridiculous amounts of compute power. We're talking really ridiculous amounts of compute power. And to do that for every single organization at scale is much more cost effective. That's why services like ChatGPT and Google Bard and everything as it comes out are much more cost effective to use, because all of that is being centralized. There's sort of an economies of scale. But for every organization to suddenly invest in a capability and beef up their servers to run this kind of stuff, it just would never work. So that's why I think this is going to be a Tableau Cloud only feature right out of the gate. But again, we'll come back to this a little later.
Tableau Pulse is a completely reimagined Tableau experience. It's going to help you, it's going to make you change and expand the way that you think about working with data. It uses AI to understand your data, to know what your goals are, and it helps you stay on top of them. And it sends you these surfaced insights automatically through very personalized, targeted, very contextual summaries. It helps you know what to do next. And all of this is built on this brand new, innovative metrics layer that adds very valuable context and business understanding to the insights that you receive.
Okay, so actually there's two things in there. There's Tableau Pulse, there's Tableau GPT sort of working in there, there's AI working in there. And then there's also a new thing in there called a metrics layer. And the metrics layer in itself is just simply the capability to define these metrics. I highlighted this in my video. So Tableau Pulse is a bit of a strange one, because even in my video, I present it as one thing. I presented it as a landing page, but actually it's actually more than that. It's almost 4 or 5 technologies coming together to work. And it's actually 5 technologies, because there's one technology they don't mention here whatsoever that is actually powering this, and I think wasn't that obvious in the keynote, but having talked to a few people behind the scenes, including at Tableau, they've confirmed that actually what's powering Tableau Pulse is VizQL data service. And so all of these innovations are coming together to form an experience. And I think that's a super important thing to bear in mind, because it really shows you the scale and the level of effort going into this direction. And by this direction, I'm not talking about Tableau Pulse. I remember this 2331. In this direction, I'm talking about what he said here, a new day for data. Here we go, here we go, here you go. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I shouldn't have done this, should I? This problem. It's talking about this problem. That feature, Tableau Pulse, is to help solve this problem. And it's not for this 30%. You've got to keep remembering that. Like, you see these people on screen and you kind of do this sort of thing where you morph yourself into one of those people. I'm one of those 70% that's not being helped. No, it's for most people in the audience, you are the authors, you are the dashboard builders. This slide is actually saying to you that Tableau is trying to help the people you're serving with this feature. So I just wanted to sort of draw a line between those two things. Anyway, let's go back to where we were. Here we go. I think we go back. Here we go.
Targeted, very contextual summaries. It helps you know what to do next. And all of this is built on this brand new, innovative metrics layer that adds very valuable context and business understanding to the insights that you receive. Now let's learn more about this with one of our customers. John Lewis Partnership is a brand that is known for...
Skip. Oh, lots of keen faces. There we go.
So who's ready to see Tableau GPT and Tableau Pulse in action? All right, please join me in welcoming to the stage Vice President of Product Management, Caroline Sherman.
Boom.
Thank you, Pedro. Hello. I am so proud of what my team has built and so excited to finally share it with you. We are revolutionizing the analytics experience for everyone.
We're on the cutting edge of generative AI.
Just gonna say it. Every time they say everyone, I just keep thinking in my head, but not you.
With Tableau GPT. And we're empowering you to put data in every corner of your company. All right, imagine.
All right, she did actually sort of clarify it there by saying, we're empowering you. You're gonna be using this tool to help everyone else. I think that's an important context setting here. And it's actually an important ask of the audience. They want to show you how they're going to amplify your capability. Now, it's interesting because I think the people in the audience aren't asking for this, right? Like, no one who builds dashboards today was asking for Tableau Pulse. What they were asking is for the ability to build things like Tableau Pulse very easily and quickly in Tableau Desktop. But instead, Tableau have sort of come, yeah, you wanted that? Well, here you go. But by the way, we're going to scale it up and you're going to do it in this specific way so that we can run our technology and everything on top of it. Maybe that's a big summarization, but I think that's essentially what's going on.
I'm a store manager at John Lewis Partnership. My job is to drive results. I need to make informed decisions fast. Enter Tableau Pulse. A whole new way of experiencing data. Right at the top, I get an overview of the metrics that need my attention with the most relevant insights. This whole experience is personalized and smart.
Now, in my sort of rundown, I went through this. I did a bunch of things. What I'll do is I'll sort of break this down. First and foremost, Tableau, this demo, what we're seeing here is an interface we've not seen anywhere in Tableau. And so what you have to remember is I'm 90% certain that everything you're seeing on screen is a UX demo. So it's running in something like Figma, but it represents where Tableau is going, essentially. And at the top, you have Tableau Pulse. It might be an experience you click into. It might not even be part of the server or cloud setup. Instead, it will be something else, a different interface, a different delivery portal, somewhere where you don't have to log in. It could live inside of Slack. It could live inside of your phone. It could live in your emails. Wherever you go to experience this, I don't think it's the standard Tableau server or Tableau cloud experience. The second thing is it's actually quite heavily personalized. So it starts off with your name. It tells you, here's your pulse, and it says 1 unusual, 11 normal. The unusual thing is actually a feature that already exists today. There is an anomaly detection capability inside of Tableau that looks at your data and alerts you to anything that goes unusual in your data. It's actually two ways. There's explain data, which can do it for a data point. And then there's another feature, which I can never remember the name of. It always escapes me. But in essence, it's taking snapshots of your data and it's plotting specific behaviors and looking for changes in your data so you can go and take action on them. So it's basically telling you there's 1 unusual thing, 11 normal things. So that's not new. Although it looks part of Pulse, that's not terribly new. Then you've got 3 sections: following, for you, and all metrics. So following are things you subscribe to. For you are maybe things that have been specifically assigned to you. And then metrics is just everything that you've ever looked at, and maybe everything you're ever interested in. And by the way, that 1 unusual is this 1 unusual thing you've got here. So although it's unusual, it's actually unusual, but it's good. It's green, right? I'm wondering if there's an unusual but red, unusual but orange, or whatever Tableau uses for sort of things that I'm doing too well. And it's basically saying, hey, something's gone up 27% compared to the previous week. And it's got this little star icon, and that star icon throughout the interfaces we've seen throughout all these demos has been Tableau GPT. So that's where the AI is coming in, building up sentences, doing analysis for you. The chart is just sort of that story, but the AI is building out that sentence and kind of giving you context. And it's all sort of integrated into this setup. So hopefully that's a decent narrative of how this is all working.
So it tells me exactly what I need to focus on today. Next, these are 3 of the metrics I'm following. Each card shows me the latest value of the metric, quick visual of the trend, and AI-generated insights, like this one. The week-to-date appliance sales has seen an unusual increase, and it's now above the normal range. Well, that is unusual. I should know what's going on. And when I click, Tableau Pulse helps me understand this specific metric.
There you go.
Metadata from Tableau is right at the top, so I know I can trust this.
And this is I mean, that's an assumption. Just because the metadata is there doesn't mean you can trust it. I think what she's saying is, look, when you click on the metadata, you can find out who the author is, what data source it is, and how the definitions work. In reality, businesses are not great at keeping all of this up to date. So as long as there is a pretty thorough process that actually pulls all this information, then that's going to work. There is something called the metadata API, which allows you to surface things like this. But if you look at capabilities like Data Guide, if you look at capabilities like the data management add-on, that's all created work for someone, and that work is not necessarily being done because people don't have the time. So what also has to happen, in my opinion, is a concerted effort by Tableau to help populate metadata for you in a meaningful way, and assign authors, assign ownership in a way that's smart, but also kind of reflects the business. Because if I'm looking at this and I'm the business user, and it goes and says, hey, Tim, if I'm in an organization of 10,000 people, I might not know who Libby Hickey is, right? I might not know. So just because you've got that information there doesn't mean people in a 10,000 person org knows exactly what this means. What it should say is maybe their role and their responsibility with this data set. That might be something a little bit better to get. But then again, there you're feeding into what's called organizational metadata that never lives in Tableau, that lives in HR systems and a bunch of other things. And so you start to see why this gets really, really difficult for you to really have trust in this information. For this to be the point of trust, you have to know a lot more about the organization, and that data just doesn't live in your data source. It doesn't live in metadata. It lives in systems that, to be honest, Tableau has no right to be, in or pulling data from, for lots of other really good reasons. Anyway, let's carry on.
And if I want to learn more, I have a couple options. I can take guidance from Tableau GPT, or I can ask my own questions. Let me show you. These are questions Tableau GPT has already suggested. So I choose one. What is driving this change? And Tableau Pulse answers me in plain language and with a viz.
Yeah, pretty good.
This new insight is telling me air fryers is driving the change. Well, they are all the rage these days. You may recognize some of this AI from other Tableau features, but Tableau Pulse is taking it to new heights. It is comprehensive and personalized with insights like drivers, outliers, trends, and much more.
So what she's saying is, look, you've seen Ask Data, you've seen Explain Data, you've seen all these other AI capabilities. Yes, we're leveraging some of that here, but actually this is a lot more because of the integration with Tableau GPT, and also sort of a reimagining of what's going on. Now, you could argue, well, why didn't Tableau do this before AI and ChatGPT took off? And I think actually there's a very simple answer to that. ChatGPT did something to the whole world. It made AI and machine learning a household term. And what that meant is that you went from users being very skeptical and nervous and anxious about a capability to ChatGPT showing how useful it could be for people, to suddenly now there's huge acceptance of this technology, but no one deployed it in any sort of meaningful way to capitalize on that. So now the floodgates have been opened, and now people suddenly trust this technology to do stuff. Everyone's clamoring to kind of open the floodgates of their tools. Google have kind of been caught in this position as a technology company. Google's AI systems have been well advanced of what OpenAI has done with ChatGPT. The difference is ChatGPT shipped something that worked first. Google were too cautious, they're too nervous, and they held off shipping AI capabilities. They've demoed them at Google I/O many years before, but Microsoft and ChatGPT pushed something out first, and suddenly that broke people's barriers down, and now they're behind because they didn't take that risk. They didn't take that sort of leap of faith in helping sort of users trust the product by showing them a compelling use case. So that's I think what's sort of happening here as well a little bit. Every single company has recalibrated what their perceived tolerance for AI is in their tool, because there's now much more mass acceptance and mass adoption of AI and machine learning, generally speaking, through large language models.
Next, I can ask a question my own way. What else should I know about air fryers? And in response, Tableau Pulse is pointing me to another metric that matters.
Yeah.
Inventory fill rate, it's getting too low. Now, this is a problem I need to be sure headquarters is solving. So I share it with my colleague at headquarters. Let's call him Pedro. Now, he and I can work on this problem directly. Hold on. Are you seeing this?
So this is the other thing. A lot of this interface is just completely new. Like there's nowhere in the Tableau product where there's any interface like this whatsoever. So this is definitely, to me, a completely separate experience, completely new experience. And it could speak to the fact that, you know, the thing we've used to build charts, you know, the VisQL, as it were, that takes a query and turns it into a rendered visualization. That stuff is too slow for this kind of really quick responsive web design. React is typically what's used for this kind of stuff. And so it's needed a whole rethink of the Tableau interface. And maybe this is what's going on with the native product, Tableau Desktop. And it's probably maybe what's causing this sort of backlog of features that aren't being addressed, because the rewrite to the web and all this technology to sort of make Tableau web friendly, generally speaking, and cloud friendly, is just taking so much time. And in some places it's better to start from scratch, and in other places you have to lift up the experience to the standard that's required.
I just got a pulse on my entire business, saw the one thing that was out of whack, and acted on it in minutes.
Yeah, she's right. Penny didn't
Cool,
drop from
right?
people for a while. Like, hey, actually, yeah, that is what you did.
We can't
But
forget about
what I
paper.
think people just, maybe what the silence shade is that, yeah, and you did that without a dashboard. I think that's what people actually, that's what was going on in people's head. Wow, you did, wow, you did that without dragging or dropping anything. It was just a search box, and whoa, okay, like, wow. And I think that's literally what was going on in the crowd. And once people sort of caught up with that thought process, they started sort of applauding. But nonetheless, yeah.
Pedro, though, he'll be notified in Slack with the
Yeah, here
same
we go.
information. And the best part is he can do the exact same things. Drill down on insights, ask questions, get those aha moments
Yeah.
that close the loop from insight to action. So how do I build these metrics?
Here you
3
go.
easy steps.
Okay.
1, select a data source.
Right. First thing, and I can do this with hindsight. These to me are all published data sources, 100%. All published data sources that like confirmed. The other thing is, if these are all published data sources, then they also probably include things like the data model. So the data model capabilities, you've now been able to publish a data model, but if you're doing things like blending, that's not going to work in this space. So it's, if you've got data sources that you're trying to put up here and do all that stuff, that's going to be great. But fundamentally speaking, there's no viz in between these data sources and the metrics. That was actually the big hindrance of metrics in the past. You're going straight from data source to a metric. So again, another sort of subtle message. Hey, you don't need to build a dashboard. You don't need to build a dashboard. And not only that, Tableau Pulse over here on the right hand side is telling you the potential metrics people might be interested in. It's doing some sort of analysis to say, hey, I've identified 11 or 5, 14 or 4 things that might be interesting in this data set. And you can kind of use that as a way of, intent, of sort of signaling intent and saying, okay, yeah, let's go to the one with the most. Let's take a look at that and see what it says. Let's see what she does.
Leverage all that hard work you've already done in Tableau. 2, define the metric. Select.
So if we pause it here, right at the top, it says suggest the metrics. So I'm assuming when you click that, it might pre-fill some of these fields. It might name them. It might give you some context. It can only really be doing that one of two ways: analyzing metadata and coming up with the metrics, or more importantly, it's looking throughout the business and seeing what data sources people are using, and it's coming up with metrics based on usage. There's some information driving that suggestion. And then you've got the name, the description, everything else. That's all perfectly fine, but nonetheless, you can kind of see that this is not a desktop authoring experience. To my point earlier, this is not for desktop authors. This is for authors to build experiences for everyone else. And the key thing, the everyday analyst, the analyst who will never open desktop, the analyst who will never open prep, to come in, choose a data source, and without seeing any drag and drop interface, select what they want, find and search what they need. And instead of going to Excel to do the same thing, they can just do it here, define it, set it up, and enable it here.
Measures and dimensions. And 3, share it.
So there's something briefly there. Oh, I can't move the cursor fast enough. The time dimension is really hard, because I think what you have to bear in mind with time dimension is some metrics require some sort of capability of snapshotting, because as time moves, the metric changes and the metric evolves. And so to be able to do sort of a comparison to the previous month, you might actually need to take a snapshot at a point in time, store that number, and then show people what that number was like. And so I don't see that here. I simply see, something saying what's the granularity monthly, what's the period, whatever. But I think in the future, what you might have to do is take that into account when building the data model, or fundamentally, this will have to have a service to take snapshots. And again, Tableau already does do this. There is a service that looks out for pieces of information, and essentially it's taking snapshots every single week on certain data sources, spotting what's unusual and giving you the feedback. So it's not sort of net new capability, but it's an important thing to bear in mind.
And 3, share it. And you'll probably want to make many more metrics on that same data source. Well, Tableau can do it for you. With one click, Tableau GPT will scour your data source and pull out the relevant metrics. From there, you control who sees what. Now, metrics and insights go directly to you and your colleagues in their email, phones, dashboards.
I feel like that was the bit that people didn't clock, because again, we were still like going, hey, how does this work? I think people were generally just processing this. So when she says dashboards and you can see it there, oh, it's in a dashboard. And the funny thing is, like, look how stark it looks compared to a dashboard. I mean, who wants to build what's at the bottom here when you can build what's at the top? Honestly. And the thing is, you have to drag them in. So I'm assuming this will be a dashboard object called metric. You'll drag it in and it will just render this. But the problem is that you'll look at this and then you'll go, but I can't build anything like that. So what am I supposed to do here? So yeah, that's a pretty interesting sort of juxtapose there between those two.
Slack, wherever they work today.
Yeah.
You've just seen a brand new analytics experience powered by generative AI. Everyone is supercharged to make better, faster decisions in ways they never could before.
September, October.
And Data Fam, this is a whole new way for you to be a superhero. This is Tableau Pulse.
And she said it again there. This is the whole new way for you to be a superhero. Not dashboarding, not building anything. This is different. And that's why I think this is going to be a different experience. Like when you watch this keynote over and over and over again, you can't help but notice the different call outs to the change that's coming at Tableau in terms of focus. And they're literally spelling it out. I can't stress that enough.
Powered by Tableau GPT. Thank you. Floor is yours, Francois.
Okay, I'm going to pause there and make sure my recording is still working. So 1 second, let's figure this out. Okay, we're good. It's a 40 gig recording so far. I'm so glad I stopped it because 100% if we've still got an hour to go on this, and yeah, like I needed to move it to another drive, so I'm glad I did that. Let's carry on.
All right. What do you guys think of Pulse? Pretty cool?
100%.
I mean, Pulse is going to be the heartbeat of business and will really enable everyone to work with data. But you know, people work with data everywhere. They're in applications. We need to deliver data within context.
Yeah.
And this is why our second chapter of the keynote is about bringing data everywhere and making every application an analytical application. So Pedro, come on up.
Thank you, Francois. All right, so you all just saw how we are reimagining the Tableau experience for consuming insights, and hopefully you're super excited about that. But now, let's talk about how we are reimagining it for building, for developing. We love our Tableau data devs, we love our Tableau developers, and you've all done so much with embedded analytics. And we've responded. So we introduced, for example, a brand new embedding API that makes it much, much easier for you to bring embedded analytics, interactive visualizations, or the full exploration experience into the applications that you build. We introduced connected apps to set up secure and seamless authentication between Tableau and the applications that you're building. But we're not done. We're rolling out the new Tableau Embedding Playground, which is in developer preview right now. It is an experience built just for you, for our developers, to more easily and quickly build embedded experiences.
So this is not technically a new thing. I'll put a link to the original Tableau Embedding Playground built by a former colleague of mine, Andre De Vries. He built this to help enable people to learn how to use embedding. I think what happened though is he's moved on from the information lab now, and he's not updating that playground. And so because lots of people have been using it, Tableau have had to kind of build a new version with a new version of the APIs so that it's more relevant for everyday people. So it's really good to see this actually, because it also shows you how easy it is to use embedding, and it maybe brings new developers into the community a lot faster because it shows them how to go and do things. And by immediately showing people how things work, they get a much better hint of how things are supposed to work and how they're supposed to set these things up. So it's actually quite a useful tool, because documentation is one way of doing things, but if you can show people the thing they're trying to do working right out of the gate, that is just a much more sort of easier to understand situation. And so actually a lot of the embedding capabilities have been building up momentum, and ephemeral users is actually quite an interesting one. Ephemeral users are basically users that you can create when they need to be created. So let's say you have 200 seats. An ephemeral user is simply a user that you don't need to specify who they are up front, but when they turn up, you can create that user, set them up, they come right through the system, and when they're done, that's it. You get rid of that user, and that's it. They exist once, and they use the instance of whatever they're trying to use, and when they're done, they're done. This means as an application builder, all you have to worry about is about provisioning that user with access, rather than trying to license everyone up front and do everything up front, which is a whole sort of pain in the neck. I'm sure I'm not describing this well enough, but nonetheless, it's something that's very welcome. Anyway, let's keep pushing.
We're introducing ephemeral users, which makes it very easy to centralize user identity and access management. You don't have to worry about maintaining or setting up users in two different places. And with the introduction of usage-based licensing, we're making this feature even more powerful. Usage-based licensing is a new payment model. It's pay for what you use. Think about how easy it'll be to scale up or scale down as you launch new applications. And now,
so usage-based licensing is pretty important, because up until then, you had to know how many people were going to use your platform, which meant you had to kind of price that in right from the gate, even if those users didn't exist, or even if that business use case hadn't been proved out. So with usage-based licensing, you can basically say, hey, we want to use Tableau, we don't know how much we're going to use, but we're going to buy a bunch of credits. And when those credits run out, will buy more, but those credits allow a certain amount of interactions. So those interactions are essentially visualization loads. Those are counted as interactions by Tableau, and so you can buy a bunch of tokens that count towards those interactions. When you hit your million, you've hit your million, you can buy more and you can scale up, add more credits much easier than you can predict the usage patterns of an individual and or a group of individuals in a particular application.
We're going to introduce the next big leap in capabilities for embedded analytics. Introducing Tableau VisQL Data Service.
It's pretty cool. So I've gone through a whole wave of feelings with this. To me, this stands as the most important part of the whole entire keynote. And as I've been talking to a few people behind the scenes, I can only emphasize that more. This is by far the most important thing in this keynote. One, because it's actually the technology enabling Tableau Pulse. Tableau Pulse itself is using this API to build all those metrics, infused together with capabilities like Tableau GPT, the AI capabilities to understand intent. But also fundamentally, I think this is also a signaling of Tableau really understanding that it's a platform and really showcasing that it's got the breadth of a platform, because most platforms, when they get to a certain scale, allow developers to build on specific things. If you take Apple and the iPhone, they build a bunch of features into the iPhone. It could be a camera, it could be a face sensor, it could be face tracking, it could be face scanning. And once they've got all those features, they enable developers through APIs to take advantage of those features, whether it's the 3 cameras, the sensors, all of those things, AR capability. There's so many things in your phone, so many capabilities in your operating system that you think belong in the apps. Actually, that's Apple enabling those technologies to make those apps allow them to do those things. And so here, this is the same thing. So Tableau taking VisQL, the process that goes and gets data, and instead of rendering the visualization, actually it's stopping short of doing that and just serving up the data to you so you can build whatever you want on top of that. And Tableau themselves have built Tableau Pulse, but you could build anything like Tableau Pulse on top of that. First, you just need to have a good understanding of what you need. That's often the hardest thing. Bring it all in, process it in whatever tool you want to use, and go off and build your experiences. So I think this is a huge thing. Tableau will use the term decoupling. To me, I think this is potentially the first signal that Tableau is really taking its platform sort of capabilities seriously and scaling them out.
VisQL Data Service is us popping the hood on Tableau and giving you access to the magic, the power of the core VisQL analytics engine. Now, you may be familiar with this concept. You may have heard of it as headless BI or composable analytics. Essentially, all it means is we are decoupling the Tableau front-end business from the back end, the magic, the power of Tableau. And imagine how powerful that is.
So I think when he just said that, I was like, oh, here we go again. Here's another sort of assault on the authors and stuff like that. Here we go. For all these years, you've known the magic of Tableau, but to access that magic, you've had to have these people who build dashboards. Guess what? We're decoupling those things. Don't worry about the dashboard building stuff. Here's the data. Here's the magic, as they call it. Now go build things on top of that. Again, yet another message here that, Tableau is really not catering to the author in this keynote. They're asking the authors to change their efforts. Instead of building dashboards, come and be a developer. Instead of building dashboards, come and build metrics. Message couldn't be clearer.
Giving you a very simple programming interface that puts that power in your hands so you can do whatever you want with it. You can create a brand new way to interact with Tableau that's not about drag and drop or vizzes. Maybe you have some automated workflows. You want to infuse Tableau VisQL engine into those workflows.
That literally said
Maybe you want to build a chatbot that interacts with Tableau. You can do all these things now with VisQL Data Service. Truly, the only limitation is your creativity. And this is a massive step forward in helping you put the power of Tableau anywhere you want people to experience data. So, who wants to see this in action? Please join me in welcoming to the stage software engineer Kate Guyman.
So I'll preface this by saying
Thank you, Paige.
Kate will go through a couple of features that have existed in embedding for a while. So what I'll do is I'll try and call out the things that are new. Embedding demos can have this sort of challenge of being a little bit sort of challenging to see, because the only thing they can show you is a coded experience to try and simulate what it might be like. But ultimately, Tableau is nowhere near as creative as the people who build these tools. So let's listen to what Kate has to say.
Have traditionally made this hard. And today, I'm going to show you how. As a developer at Cumulus Bank, I love to craft beautiful, creative solutions. Check out this personalized banking app I built for our customers with Tableau Embedding.
So the point of this is to highlight to people that this is a kind of thing you can build as a bank with an embedded visualization with data coming from Tableau. This chart, this account overview is a Tableau chart. This chart on the bottom, total spend, spend versus budget, spend versus current year, is coming from Tableau. The stuff on the left is not coming from Tableau. That's coming from the application. The stuff across the top, the stuff on the left, that is all the application. The only two things coming from Tableau, the two charts in the top and in the middle, those are Tableau charts. And that's sort of the whole point of embedding. You look at something like this and you don't think there's any Tableau in it, but actually it's just a highly well orchestrated embedded application.
Specifically, we're looking at Francois spending, who conveniently just happens to be a loyal Cumulus customer. There is so much interactivity built into this viz. I can filter by money in, money out, overall cash flow, or change the relative date range. I can pull in key metrics from Tableau. Oh no, net worth is down? Why is that? Francois has spent so much money in May already. In fact, Francois, did I see you at the slot machine last night? It's all starting to make sense. Lucky for him, if he's really concerned, he can take action on his data right in his workflow with this custom context menu that will send a report of his spending directly to his financial advisor.
So that is a really subtle thing. I didn't even notice that until now. I've watched this so many times. I've only just clocked that action was something I've not seen done anywhere else. If I just, can I go back a few frames? Yes, I can. I can use the thing cursor here and just keep going back. We're doing it in reverse. Come on, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Here we go. There we go. Send to my financial advisor actions. Either that's new, or these are actions that have existed as part of the dashboarding experience, but that I was under the impression those were Salesforce actions. I didn't believe them to be actions here. So it's super cool that you can build in actions into that contextual menu. I did not know that was a thing. Maybe it's a new feature coming. Completely missed it. Super interesting.
Report of his spending directly to his financial advisor. Today, with Tableau Embedding, you can even embed web authoring. Clicking Explore Data will empower Francois with our first-class drag-drop self-serve analytics experience. How cool is that?
Very good.
As a developer, it was so much fun to integrate all these bells and whistles. But do you guys know what's even more fun than building things? Building things fast. Because forget weeks of reading documentation. With Tableau Embedding Playground, I built this web portal in just minutes.
Okay.
Let's slide on into Playground and check it out.
Good little transition.
All I need to do is paste a link to my viz,
More like a dance
click
floor move,
run,
that.
and Playground chalks out a prototype for me, code written and all.
Using this text editor at the bottom, I can play around with the API and get instant results. It's basically like playing on the monkey bars, but no broken bones this time. Now, over on the left is where the magic really happens. The Embedding API offers a wide range of functionality, from customizing the display to adding all sorts of user interactions, like this context menu we saw earlier. I can browse through, and when
You know what would be really cool in here? Tableau GPT. If Tableau GPT, if you could just have a text box saying, I have this viz, here are the details, show me how to embed it in this particular context. And I'd also like you to generate the HTML for the buttons and filters to filter this particular data set based on how this works. I mean, ChatGPT could do that if it knew enough about your data source and you prompted it correctly. Tableau GPT should surely be a part of this and be doing that for you. Never mind showing you how to do it. What if it just did it for you with a search box? That would be incredible.
I see one I want to add, say a relative date filter, it's as easy as dragging and dropping, and the code just appears.
That is the next best thing there. And you probably have more confidence that this is correct.
Rerun Playground, and you can see the dashboard is now filtered to only show data from last quarter. How cool is that? My question is, why would you beep bap when you could just drag drop? Once I'm satisfied, it's as easy as copy the playground code, paste back in my web app, and deploy. And that's how, with just a few clicks, I seamlessly added analytics for our banking customers right in their workflow. With Tableau Embedding, we can bring robust, interactive components into any web application or web portal quickly and easily. But when we talk about analytics everywhere, we're not just talking about visualization, because it's fundamentally about the
Oh God, I'm just gonna keep stopping every time they say it and be like, she said it again. We're not just talking about database. No. When we talk about analytics, we're not talking about what you think. We're talking about this. Couldn't be stressed more.
Engine that powers the viz. So there's one last tool that, especially as a developer, I am most excited to show you guys. With VizQL Data Service, we are opening up direct access to our data modeling capabilities. So,
data modeling capabilities, that is not just the data sources. I think that's another subtle thing. You can essentially publish up a data source with a data model and then query that data source using VizQL Data Service and have the model an intrinsic part of that query, which is, again, super powerful, because with most other applications, what you'd have to do is you'd have to stand up a flat table of flat data structure behind that for something to query. But here, instead, you can just query the data model. And if your data model has been built by someone, who understands the concept of data modeling, then yeah, you don't have to worry about all the intricacies of relationships and everything, because that's all done for you. And you can leverage that work all the way through your stack, in your applications, in your dashboards, in your metrics. All of that is going to take advantage of that single sort of version of the truth.
Your data model can power automation, unlocking insights and actions anywhere.
Yeah.
To see how this works, let's check out Francois' spending by category. Through our newest API, I can now access these numbers outside of the context of this viz, or even in a completely separate application. Over in my developer tool, I've written this request to VizQL Data Service to get customer spending by category. I just added the dimension and the measure that I wanted, and clicking send returns me the exact same data we just saw in our application.
So this interface, I don't think will be an interface you'll ever really actually see. It's simply just it's a bit like GraphQL where you can help build queries and visualize an API to understand better how it works. But in reality, the query you'd build would be, in some sort of script in a backend system, potentially paired with something like the REST API, calling Tableau, getting the data, and that data would come back in a JSON array in some sort of web format that then you can quickly deploy and use in your application, essentially. So this demo is a conceptual demo as much as it is to just show you what happens when you send a query. This is what you get back, and this is what it looks like. But in actual fact, it's just a visualization of the feature.
Is flexible, so I'm not limited by what the viz was showing. In my second request, I've added another dimension, subcategory, to my query. In the response, I can see a more refined breakdown of Francois' spending.
Right.
Whoa, Francois has been spending a ton of money at restaurants. Thanks again for dinner. Let's use this new intel to programmatic.
What I would have loved is for this demo to showcase something using the data model, because I think that was called out, and I think that would have been something super powerful to show, that to get this value correct, you'd have to rely on the capabilities of relationships and the data modeling setup in order for this to sort of work. It's a little bit tedious to show on stage, to be fair, and by the time you've done that and the penny's dropped, that's like a 15-minute demo. They don't have that kind of time. But that, I think, is sort of the kind of demos that people will those are the demos where people realize how powerful this is.
We sent in an alert back in our banking app that, congratulations! You've qualified for a 10% cash back bonus at all future restaurant spending. Way to go, Francois. This is just one single example of how Cumulus Bank could leverage VizQL data service. What else could Headless BI do? Maybe fraud alerts? Yeah, you bet. Dynamic budgeting? Why not? Automatic investment? Let's build it.
So that's the thing. These examples are all, these must be use cases that someone's come to them and say, hey, I'd love to do this kind of thing. Querying the data sources in the old way is too slow. If you could stand up some other way for me to query this data, I could more easily identify these kinds of issues and challenges and, use Tableau as sort of a backend system for storing all of this information where dashboards, metrics, and also applications can do their work, if that makes sense. In many ways, you could almost look at this service as being the first time an application can run on the Tableau platform. In actual fact, it's running on top of the Tableau platform, but you could say it's running on the platform because it's using data from the Tableau setup.
Or whatever other creative solutions you all come up with next. That's all from me. Back to you, Francois.
Great job, Kate, and I'm glad you didn't dig into my shopping purchases. All right, so we've seen how we're bringing data to everyone and how we're putting it everywhere in every application. But really, Tableau needs data, and we need to trust
Salesforce
the data.
Data Cloud is this next bit.
And Tableau continues to be
it's
for
about F1,
all
and again, I
data.
can't really talk
That
about
is not
customers
changing.
here, so
No
let's,
matter where
skip
your
this in a
data is
bit.
stored, whether it's in the cloud or on premises, in Snowflake, SAP, SQL Server, if you have data, we want to connect to it. This is why in the past year, we've expanded our data connectivity options. We added more connectors through the Tableau Exchange to help you connect to the data that matters to you. And we're just about to release a new connector to Amazon S3. Oh yeah, so if you've got data in S3, whether it's in Parquet files, CSV, or Excels, it's just one click away with Tableau. So we're continuing to add more connectors, but more and more data leads to more and more data chaos.
So we're well and truly into the third section of this keynote, and now we're about to talk about Salesforce. So at no point in this keynote, in the three key areas, Has anything for a dashboarding author, anything for the typical analyst of the past been showcased? That you get devs on stage. That's the stuff they call true to the core, right? That's the stuff that, you know, the core user up until now. But in terms of where Tableau is heading, this is it. You've got Tableau Pulse, Tableau GPT, embedding, developers build on top of the platform. And then you've got Salesforce Data Cloud, essentially the capability to ingest data all into Salesforce and then have a data model built for you in the background. This is essentially what we're about to see a demo of. I'll let sort of Francois speak a bit more about it. We'll skip the F1 bit and then we'll keep going.
Data is hard, but we want to make data easy. We want to make data available and accessible and trusted for everyone. This is why late last year, we launched the Salesforce Data Cloud. The Data Cloud enables you to do amazing things. It lets you combine data together from hundreds of sources. It then lets you harmonize that data into a single source of truth. So you can model it all in one place. And you can then use that data and enrich it with rich algorithms with AI built in. And you can use the Data Cloud not just with Data Cloud. You don't have to move all your data in there. This platform is completely open, which means that you can zero copy that data into other databases like Google BigQuery, which we're just announcing at this conference. So now the data in the Data Cloud, which comes in both real time and batch, can automatically be available in BigQuery with no transformation, no duplication. It's instant. And
now, I have to say, the audience at this keynote, I think very few people will get what's going on here. And that's because it's just a completely different world. This is almost the world of cloud and DevOps, basically. Zero copy, zero ETL. To be brutally honest with you, that makes no sense to me. Zero copy means you're not having to like literally get the file is over there. You're not having to copy it over. Zero ETL means you're not having to run a whole bunch of ETL setups to get the value from your data. So for that to be available in Google BigQuery, either it's already running in Google BigQuery, or there is something else I don't fully understand. So if you know the answer, drop a comment below. Educate me on what zero copy, zero ETL means in the context of Google BigQuery, but I simply don't understand.
Vice versa, the Data Cloud data can come into, the Google BigQuery data can come into the Data Cloud without any data movement as well. It's instantaneous.
Right.
And it processes massive volumes of data. But best of all, the Data Cloud is optimized for Tableau.
So the only way that could work is if, you know, Salesforce is just doing the work on the data itself. Like zero copy, zero ETL means wherever the data is, it's already in the right place and it can already process it right there, but you're not doing ETL, you're not moving it, you're not reshaping it, standing it up as something else. You're literally processing it from where it is in the Salesforce Data Cloud, natively speaking. And then this goes back to the point that Ryan mentioned earlier, which is that Salesforce Data Cloud is now powered by Tableau. And here you can see Hyper. Hyper is a technology that's really running all of this stuff.
We've taken the Tableau Hyper engine and we've put it at the heart of the Data Cloud. And what that means is that when you connect to the Data Cloud, it's like if you were connecting to your local Hyper extract, but it's running at cloud scale. It's fast and it's analytically ready on day one. In addition, we've also introduced instant analytics. So you can go from data to analysis in Tableau instantly. There's no reconnecting to the data. There's no remodeling the data. It's automatically available. And so to show you the power of the Data Cloud, I'd like...
So essentially what he's saying is that once you've done all the work in the Salesforce Data Cloud, you can just connect to it in desktop, do whatever you need to do it. You don't need to do or repeat any of the work you've already done again in order to start visualizing and doing stuff with it. So I need to skip this F1 segment. Let's go ahead and do that. Normally I'd never skip F1, but hey, let's skip ahead. Here we go. Then we go to Francois' demo. He's a McLaren fan. Fun fact, I actually grew up in McLaren's hometown of Woking, and that's literally where I grew up when I was young. So McLaren is also my home team, as it were. They are my home team, although I support Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton because Lewis drove for McLaren. That's actually how I started supporting Lewis, and when he moved to Mercedes, I kind of moved with him. But I've always remained a McLaren fan, Lando Norris, everyone else. Yeah, so great that Francois is a McLaren fan. Francois, if you're over in the UK, give me a shout. We'll go over to the MTC and I'll take you around Woking, and maybe Lando Norris will be zooming around in his MP1 or something like that, and we can bump into him.
Need for speed, and the combination of Data Cloud and Tableau just brings data to life in brand new ways. So here, we're looking at a Tableau dashboard, and we can see all of the various touch points in which Formula One engages with their fans, from emails to F1 experiences to online purchases or Drive to Survive on Netflix. It's amazing. Now think about it. This data is coming from hundreds of sources, and Formula One needs to aggregate it all together into a single view of their customers so they can engage with their fans in new ways. Now, this dashboard is powered by the Data Cloud. And so let me show you how to put together the data behind this dashboard.
Right.
First, here we're looking at all of the various data streams that we're bringing into the Data Cloud. You can see that we have data coming in from Salesforce, from the Marketing Cloud,
S3.
from Amazon S3.
Yeah.
This is hundreds of data sources coming in. And you can bring in new data with a single click. And there it is. And now we can connect to our Salesforce data really easily. I can connect to my cloud storage data, or we can bring in data from any number of sources just really, really easily. All right, now that we have data, we then have to model that data. So here we have what we call the harmonization layer. This is where we take all of those various data sources and combine them together into a single model, so we can get a single view of the customer. And so you can see how we're creating all of those mappings between the source and the target. Next, you'll see on the right, our data is coming in from all these places, but we then have to unify that data. Because Francois that's engaging through Netflix or through the website or through the Grand Prix, I'm the same person, but they're individual different records in all the sources. And with the Data Cloud, we have the ability to resolve the unified profile and turn 63 million individual customers into actually 23.9 million rows. That's it. All right. So now we've modeled all that data, and you can see how all of the various data sources come together in this graph view. Now, do I have to do anything else to bring this into Tableau? Absolutely not. Nope. Here we have instant analytics for Tableau. I can go ahead and download this as a Tableau data source.
Now, when I saw this demo, I was like, that is pretty powerful. That's literally what I spend all my time doing as an analyst, building dashboards. All this activity that we've just gone through up until now that is done in Salesforce, that is literally the bread and butter of being a data analyst sometimes. Just bringing the right data sources together is sometimes 90% of the challenge. Once you've done all of that and you've formatted and scoped the data and it's all perfect, the rest is easy. The dashboard just comes naturally. If Tableau is a good tool, it will let you do that. But the hard stuff is always this. And so it's really interesting to see that, look, Salesforce actually thought through this for its own challenges. And, I'm pretty keen to try this out on, I'll bring in Superstore. We'll try and map in orders and sales and regions and just see how well that works. Put the data in Dropbox. We'll put the data in S3. We'll bring it all together and see what happens. But this is actually pretty compelling if it works as advertised. And I have to say this is fairly new. And I think I heard from a Tableau themselves that they're using this internally to help them solve problems inside of the organization. So if they're using it and it's hopefully helping them, I get a sense they'll get a really good feel for sort of how it could be made better, because they're actually using what they're selling, as it were, as a tool. So they'll experience it, all the same pain points, all the same issues, the same you and me will experience it. That's actually quite promising. I'm always worried when a company doesn't dog food its own product to help run its own business. So,
Or TDS, or soon you'll be able to open it up directly in the browser and start exploring it.
That's pretty good.
And when you open it up, well, you get the entire data model pre-created in Tableau. You don't have to redefine your relationships,
really
redefine your joins. It's right there for you.
I will say that's a monster data model. Look at how many tables are in there. It's absolutely nuts. And yeah, it doesn't seem to be benefiting from some of the new capability of shared modeling either. So if you know, I really hope that with shared modeling, you know, something like this kind of works really well with several base models and then a bunch of other sort of, you know, related things, or also allowing you to change your perspective. So maybe I don't want all of these things. I'd love to be able just to choose what I need and bring that in. Even though the model is much bigger, I'd love to just prune down to the few things I need and have that in the connection rather than having everything else.
And then I can start analyzing this data.
Yeah.
Now, every time I drag and drop, I'm connecting to the data cloud. I'm slicing billions of records across all of those sources, and I'm able to visualize it and use the full power of Tableau. Because remember, we're using Hyper in the back end. We're using Hyper at scale and powering these experiences.
Right.
And that's how simple it is. And I can go from data to insight and engage with my data in brand new ways. Right. And so this is the power of Data Cloud and Tableau.
Really good demo. Really good demo. Super
and
simple.
This is available today for all of you to use. Whether you're using Salesforce data or not, it's available for everyone. And so today you've seen the next evolution of Tableau, how we're bringing new...
That was almost, I completely missed that actually as well. Every time I watch this, I learn something new. It's available for everyone, whether you're using Salesforce or not. So you can go and use Salesforce Data Cloud, even if you're not using Salesforce. I'd love to see how that works in practice. Of course, it's an opportunity for them to upsell you to Salesforce. But nonetheless, yeah, if that's really how it works, amazing. I wonder why they didn't call it Tableau Data Cloud. That would have been a much better branding because to me, I sort of think Tableau is the data product within Salesforce. So why didn't they just call it Tableau Data Cloud and then tell everyone in Salesforce that this is going to help you clean your data, prep your data, model your data. And it would have been a bit more of a accepted sort of solution within the Tableau community more broadly. But anyway, you don't build features for this, 1 or 2%. You build it how you're supposed to build it, and you worry about the problems later.
Experiences for business users, how we're empowering developers to build new kinds of applications powered by Tableau, and how the Data Cloud is going to help everyone deliver data trusted for your organization. But are we done? Oh, no, we're not. It is time for the one and only Devs on Stage.
And so I've actually done videos on everything in this. I've gone through pretty much all these features. I've summarized them already. You can check out those in the channel. I'm not going to go through them now because I sort of don't think they're really sort of part of the keynote. This is almost a separate session. They are fantastic. I've broken all of them down. The only thing I haven't broken down yet is VizQL Data Service. I'll do that in a separate video. But as for everything else you're about to see, including Tableau Pulse, Tableau GPT, I've done videos on all of those in the same playlist as this video. So we're going to stop this video here. I'd love to know what you thought of this commentary. It was pretty long, a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. But nonetheless, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.